You're listening to the DC Comics Chronicles, where we cover every adventure from the streets of Gotham to the skies of Metropolis and into the depths of Atlantis. With your hosts, Adam and the Emerald Enthusiast.
Welcome to another episode of the DC Comics Chronicles. As always, I'm your host, Adam. And with me is my co-host, Donnie, the Emerald Enthusiast. Donnie?
Hey, what's up, comic book fans? It's the man whose ring runs on fanboy energy, the podcasting machine, the big nerd in green, here to ask you, who's your daddy? As we cover Son of Kal-El.
I was like, where is he going with it? What kind of podcast are we doing? You were looking at me funny when I was doing the intro. You thought I was going to screw it up, didn't you?
I thought you were going to laugh about something. It looked like you were ready to break down.
Yes, we are here. You know, it's funny. The last time we did a DC Comics Chronicles episode, we talked about Tom Taylor's work on his first arc of Nightwing. And now we're talking about Tom Taylor's first arc and a little of Superman, Son of Kal-El. So this podcast is kind of turning into a little bit of a Tom Taylor Stan podcast, I guess. But yeah, we're going to talk about the
Stan and simp. That's two words that I've learned over the last couple of years. So
yeah, me too. Which is maybe two words I don't really know that I wanted to learn, but here we are. Yeah, we're going to discuss the adventures of Jon Kent as Superman. So,
yes.
Donnie, when we last talked about Jon Kent on the show, it was when Philip Kennedy Johnson was still writing both Superman and Action Comics.
Right.
He, of course, has gone on to take over the Action Comics side of the Superman books. And Tom Taylor launched the original Superman title ended. And Tom Taylor began his tenure on Superman with the launch of Superman, Son of Kal-El. So what's going on with the Son of Clark Kent?
Well, as Superman is preparing to leave, we kind of pick up with Jon preparing to take over for his father when his father eventually does leave. And Tom Taylor introduces us to Jon having a new secret identity. This is Finn Connors. Going to be his secret identity. And Finn is a university student, and this secret identity seemingly only lasts less than half an issue.
Yeah.
Because Jon has to stop a shooter immediately, and he has to, again, use his powers in front of a large group of students. And I like that scene just because, and I hate to get dark here, but there's been way too many school shootings here in America.
Yeah.
And, you know, I always wish there was a superhero, somebody to step in and stop some of these things. But
definitely,
I love the artwork there and the idea of Jon saving other students. That just hit me as a very Superman thing to do.
Yeah, that was a very poignant of the time way to start this book. You know, it's like I was kind of like, oh, okay, like that really pulls you in, like right away. And it's like it's that mix of, yes, it's Superman, so it's fantasy, but this unfortunately is a real world problem that, you know,
yes,
unfortunately it's a thing. And I wish it wasn't, but here we are. Yeah. But the visuals, the art by John Timms in this is phenomenal. Right from the, you know, the shirt rip and the wig flying off.
Yeah.
To Superman, you know, Jon. I mean, look, I'm going to call him Superman, but we're talking about Jon.
Right.
If when his father comes into play, I'll just call him Clark.
Or
I'm not going
cows.
to do Superman 1, Superman 2. This is not something to do with Spider-Man, which I can't really spoil. But so Superman spears the shooter, and it was a very Goldberg / Roman Reigns thing to do. That's what I immediately thought of when he did that.
Well, speaking along those lines, we're introduced to Jay Nakamura, who is an online video personality who calls himself the Truth.
Not our truth, the truth.
Well, exactly. As soon as he said I'm the Truth, I was like, "What's up?" I'm sorry. So they become close friends, much more close than originally. Later on, they become much more close than you would think originally.
Sure, yeah.
But so Clark comes to have a father-son talk with Jon eventually, and Kal gives his son some fatherly wisdom here. He has a gift for Jon as he's preparing to leave, and that's his own key to the Fortress of Solitude. And so another sign that, for a while at least, we're passing the mantle here from Kal to Jon.
Right. I did like that scene before that when they were, on, I guess, was it the moon?
Oh, yeah, that was really interesting too. Yeah, with them looking out, and kind of, that's a good visual to convey the kind of, sentinel of the world that Superman is. So.
Yeah, and like they're talking about, what the world is and how it could be. And there's a great bit of dialogue. And then Jon point blank says to his father, he's like, can I be honest with you? And he's like, yeah, I could take some criticism. He goes, what do you got? And he goes, I'm bulletproof. I could take some criticism.
Yeah.
And then he's like, why don't you do more? And he's like, you could, and he's talking about hunger and all the, like you said, geopolitical issues that Superman and the Justice League for decades has said, we can't get involved in that, And there's a line where Clark says to him, okay, these are getting a little, this is more than just constructive criticism now.
Right, exactly.
Slow your roll, kid. This is getting a little too, a little below the belt now.
Yeah.
But, it's a good point. And I think Superman's answer, I think Clark's answer.
Kal, yes.
Is very confusing when they're both on the same thing. I think it's very appropriate. He's like, and very, I think, heartfelt. He says, I always felt that it wasn't my place to step in because I'm not from here. I live here, but I'm not from here.
And that's going to see that this is a theme we're going to see developed.
Yeah. He's like, this planet is your home.
Yeah.
And if you feel you need to step in those matters and do more, then I trust you enough to do that. And then they share a nice hug. And that's when he says, come on, I got to give you the house key. And Jon's like, I already have a house key. He's like, not that one.
No. And that's when Kal tells him that he may have to leave soon.
Yeah. But I like when he says, he's like, oh, and by the way, when I'm gone, no hard house parties. I'll know if Damien breaks anything. Oh, that.
Oh. Yeah, there's. Why don't we call him to differentiate? Why don't we call him Superman Red and Superman Blue?
Yeah. I did like the blue one because it was leaf colored, but blue and white. But the red one was like, no, the Montreal Canadiens crap. Get it.
I like that storyline back in the 90s.
So did I. I mean,
it was divisive, but I liked it. Yeah, I liked it.
We'll review it one day. Piss a lot of people off.
Yeah. So later on, we see Jon rescuing a boat of asylum seekers from the island country of Gamora. And while saving these people is obviously an act of heroism, it doesn't really rub everybody the right way.
Sure.
The authorities are not pleased about Jon bringing, undocumented foreign people into the country, or his insistence that they be treated humanely. We see instantly that he's like, these people will be taken care of.
Right.
Yeah. And we also see that this draws the ire of Gamora's dictator president, who is Henry Bendix.
Now, you know, what was, before we get into him, you know what was very interesting was, I love the whole scenario with the kid when he first sees Jon, and Jon is about to tell him, you know, don't worry, everything's gonna be okay. And he's about to say, he's like, you don't have to tell me who you are. I know who you are. You're Superman.
Yeah.
So like, again, it goes back to that idea of, to the kid, it's the symbol. He sees that symbol and he knows, all right,
yeah,
I'm good. We're good. Superman's here.
Right. Yeah.
And I love that. But also the visual of the art with Jon carrying the boat is pretty amazing.
Right.
I mean,
it looked a lot like the sub on Superman and Lois.
Yeah. It's so awesome.
Yeah.
Like, what a beautiful piece of art.
Right. And I like how Jon tells his dad, you know, you're not Superman. We are Superman.
I'm never going to live that line down.
Yeah. Now, was this the issue? And I'm kind of things are kind of blurring here. Was this the one where Jon used the heat vision on the handcuffs when they tried to cuff the one of the refugees?
Yes,
yeah. I can't remember if that was the start of issue 3 or whatever. But I like that visual of, look, these people aren't a threat. You have no right to do this. Okay. And again, that's a more socially conscious, a little bit more risque Superman. You know, he's not just going to step back and say, I'm going to let the wheels turn. If he sees something that he deems is unfair, he's going to act.
Right. So, but again, like, we're living in times where this stuff is happening. So it should be, I don't see anything wrong with reflecting that in the books we're reading. I don't know, personally. I think it's very intriguing that they reflect the world outside our window a little bit.
Well, as a Green Lantern fan who had, you know, the first African American character introduced into DC Comics as a titular character anyway.
Yeah.
Obviously, I like that, and I liked that they actually did at times take on some real world problems.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. So, shall we move on to issue number 3? Anything else to say about 2?
No, I think we can move on.
So things are starting to heat up a little bit for Jon, and we're introduced with a girl. We're introduced to a girl with some kind of density powers named Fault Line. And that seems to be kind of a theme in this book, is we're meeting people who have powers, but they're not completely under control.
Right. They're being controlled. Yeah.
And it's interesting here, and I wanted to ask you, I don't know if I've seen an explanation of this yet. Jon calls people post-humans and not just meta-humans.
I don't think that was explained by anything.
Okay, I was like, now is that differentiated in any way, the post-humans and meta-humans?
So far, not that I know of.
Okay. Once again, we see Jon stand up to the police, and Jon gets thrown in jail in this issue. So, not afraid to, again, take a stand on something, even if it, you know, and it's kind of weird to see Superman in jail. I don't think I've seen that visual a lot over the years.
Well, yeah, neither have I, but it's very, you know, poignant, because he's like, are you going to arrest these people? He's like, well, yeah, it's part of the process. I have to. He goes, well, then you're going to arrest me too, because I'm standing with them. And he's like, yeah, but we can't arrest you. And he's like, why not?
Right.
He's like, do you know who you are? He goes, I know who I am. Do your job, officer. Like, you know, like, don't treat me in any special way just because of who my father is.
Right.
So I really like that right from the get-go, Jon is a Superman that wants to make his own way. Like, he doesn't want to be treated any more different just because his father is, you know, Kal-El. Right?
And once again, we see when Superman comes to get his son released, you can tell that he has some mixed feelings about it, but at the same time, he just wants to be a dad who's listening. You know,
Yeah.
Superman's a great dad.
Yeah, I like the scene where he's like, "Oh, I did some hard time," and then Clark is like, "You were in there for 45 minutes." He goes,
Right.
"Yeah, but those were 45 hard minutes."
that was
And just the banter between the two of them.
Yeah.
It is
45.
It's fantastic. Yeah. And also, I gotta say, the scene early in the book where you see them both making the rescue,
Yes.
like working together, that was so beautiful. The imagery in that was so amazing. And when they were talking at levels that only their superhero could pick up, so that they wouldn't scare the post-human / meta-human.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just that kind of stuff is, amazing.
Right. And like I said, I like how under control, Superman, and when I say Superman, I mean Kal, how under control he was with his son. Well, it seems to, whether his son is, he has, in one world, he's sneaking off to the bedroom with his girlfriend, and or he's getting thrown in jail. Superman's very patient. So Lois, not so much, but
Lois is very reactive, very, she's feisty.
So what, some other observations on this issue? What do you think, sir?
Mainly, like I said, I get why, I like that Jon is trying to find his own place that he fits as Superman.
Mm-hmm.
But just the idea of them working together, like, I'll never get tired of seeing that.
Rescue, likewise. Yeah,
it was one of the best things I've seen. The dual rescue.
I gotta say, I really love the cover too. The one of Jonathan, of Jon kind of looking at his dad through the bars.
Yeah. No. But I mean, that was some of the best stuff I've seen in Superman comics since I've been back reading.
Yeah.
So that art. So
yeah,
I loved it. And then the whole thing about how they're like, because Jay Nakamura is waiting there, and he's like, "Oh, I came to bail your son out," and he's like, "Thanks for always." Clark says, "Thanks for being there for my son and being willing to bail him out." And he's like, "Oh, anytime. Not that I expect him to be in jail often, but
Right, exactly." I also like the scene where Superman's like, "Hey, do you want a lift?" And he's like, "What do you mean by a lift?" And of course,
because Clark invites him to dinner with the family. In Smallville.
I really like this, and I like the art here too. I can't say that all the art was perfect from my point of view, but this one, the one where they go to, meet
in issue 4.
Yeah. No, this is at the end of issue 3.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the end of issue 3 where he's meeting the family.
That's the beginning of 4, isn't it?
No, that's the end of issue 3. Beginning of 4 was when the explosion happened.
Oh, right. Sorry. Yeah.
Right. But when Jay goes to meet Lois, and he's like just kind of standing there, probably the way that I looked when I was meeting Daryl Banks. I was just like,
I thought of that actually when I was reading.
And I like how Jon was like, "Well, when we left Metropolis, he could talk."
And I like the scene where it's like where Jon, is like, "Hey, what's wrong?" Like he's like, "That's Lois Lane in there. You didn't tell me Lois Lane was going to be here." He's like, "Well, she is my mother."
She's my mother.
Like, I knew that, but still. And he's like, he goes, "Most people get intimidated by my dad." He's like, "Well, Clark Kent's a good reporter, but he's nothing compared to Lois Lane." I love it how for once that like Lois is the celebrity.
Yep. Yeah. So, any other observations there? Shall we go on to issue 4?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So Son of Kal-El 4. I do like this the cover here of like the explosion of him coming out of like the farmhouse.
Yeah.
And the cape on the ground.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So the opening scene here is right before like this explosion that we see, and John and Jay are sitting there with Jonathan and Martha. Why did I say that name? And so they're all having dinner, and you see things like the house kind of like start to crack, and John react to it. And we see that he's able to get his grandparents out, but we also see that we see kind of the manifestation of Jay's power here too.
Right.
That he can't be hurt, and that
You
he's
can kind of fade,
again, he can kind of go intangible like Vision
you
almost.
phase out, yeah.
Yeah. And it seems like, is this the first time John is introduced to that? Does he not know Jay is supposed to? Okay.
It's the first time.
Because it seemed to me that that's how he reacted.
Yeah.
And so this is later on, we see the Justice League show up to try to confront Fault Line, and it's what's it, Wonder Woman, I believe, and Flash.
Wonder Woman being Hippolyta at this point.
Right. And this is Wally West.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's Flash.
And
I believe is it Hal or John? That's the Green.
Do what?
Was it Hal or John that was the Green Lantern?
It was Hal. Yeah. And then John, I like how John shows up and he's like, no, wait a minute. She's out of control here, but she's not a villain.
Yeah.
And of course, I was happy to see a Green Lantern show up.
Yeah, and I love how, like, he purposely speeds in front of the Flash because he's like, if I don't get there first, this, Flatline's in trouble, or Fault Line's in trouble. Mm-hmm. And the look on Flash's face is like, wait a minute, you actually got in front of me? Like, there was a look of shock in the art that it was like, oh, that's impressive.
Yeah. Well, we've seen that that was a regular question over the years is, who's faster, Superman or the Flash? And it's been portrayed in different ways. We know that usually when a Flash really turns it on and they go full speed, they can outrun Superman. But yeah, I mean, that shows you just how fast John can move if he wants to. So,
and also the cool thing that I found with that interaction was Wally at this point introduces himself to John and says, yeah, I'm Wally. If you ever need it to talk or anything, I'm always here for you. And John says to him, why are you telling me your civilian name? And he's like, because I know what it's like to try and step out of your hero's shadow.
Right.
I thought that was very poignant. Man, Tom Taylor can write some damn fine dialogue.
Yeah, he's doing exceptionally well here. So
he's doing the Lord's work on this book, I'll tell you.
So later on, we see that John and Jay meet up with Airy and Wink. Now, are these characters with whom you are familiar?
I believe this was a character, or these were characters that were in Tom Taylor's Suicide Squad run.
Okay.
I'm not super familiar with them, but that's where I remember them from.
Yeah. Interesting reaction here and interaction with these two.
Yeah.
What else do you think about like this idea that John's powers are like starting to become, or wait, that might be the next issue where
That's
John was like,
issue.
where they become kind of unstable.
Yeah. I think the result of the meeting that you're speaking of was more about learning that Henry Bendix is, and Gamora is, it's more corrupt than they let on. And it's trying to show John, like, this is the minefield you stepped in when you rescued that boat of people.
Right.
And it's like, we've got to come up with an idea to take this guy down.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and that actually was the end of this issue where he's basically hit with that energy, and his powers start to become
Yeah,
unstable.
because he's called away.
Yeah,
Way.
calls himself overcharged.
Yeah, and he like goes to rescue the first guy he rescued in issue 1. But it was all a ploy to basically overcharge John by Henry Bendix to overcharge John's powers. And that's
and we see the the effects of that in the next issue because
Donnie, before we get there,
go ahead.
I noticed Lex Luthor, Henry Bendix, another bald guy. Are you not offended that people with your hairstyle are being portrayed as the villain?
No, it doesn't offend me at all. So
you're gonna start a hashtag over the complaining about this. Should we alert everybody that the hashtag event? The hashtag event is coming.
I don't know what that would be, and yep,
we'll come up with something.
Right. Oh, so Jon is overloaded with power starting issue 5, and we see that he continues to try to be a hero to the world, but he also gets a little reckless because he can't control himself at this point. And as he is rescuing this one civilian from getting run over, he breaks the guy's arm.
Right.
And I hope that's revisited, by the way. I like that idea of every once in a while, something happening that's unintentional.
Yeah.
Because when you can go back and that kind of adds an element of realism there.
It does. Yeah. And but also, yeah. And it's like this event, Jon being supercharged, is a reminder of just how much he and his father have to, when they do things, dial back their ability.
And
be conscious of it, because the simplest thing for them could do a lot of harm.
Right.
To us normal folk.
Right.
So in the effort of saving us, accidentally they could hurt us if they're not.
Sure. Yeah, and I like that theme. It reminded me of some of the last dialogue in the animated series, the Justice League animated series, and Superman said, "I feel like I live in a world of cardboard.
Yeah.
I can never lose control." But then he looked at Darkseid and said, "But you can take it, can't you, big man?" And I was like,
yeah.
I knew something was about to go down. That was good times back then. But anyway.
Oh yeah. Oh, that show.
Yeah.
That show was the blueprint for the Justice League.
Yeah.
I'll say.
So we see Jay and Jon go back to Jay's apartment, and Jay talks Jon into sleeping for 9 hours because he's like, "You're burning out. You have to rest."
Which is not normal.
For one of the Superman origin stories, and I can't remember which era it was, but Superman said that he taught himself to sleep to try to be more human, but he didn't need to sleep. He doesn't need to sleep. He doesn't need to breathe. He doesn't need to eat. But he does these things, as part of his assimilation to Earth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because he gets all the energy that he would need and all the health he needs from Earth's yellow sun. So Jon needing to rest means that Bendix did some damage here.
And I like the part about before he goes and collapses, on Jay's couch. There's the scene where he's taking everybody to that hospital, right? And there's that big splash page with you see Jon trying to do all that. That was a great, again, fantastic art. But I love the inclusion of Jon and the doctors all wearing a face mask. It's all very
Jon didn't need to, obviously, but yeah.
Right. But for the again, hold on, wait, let me not to get too too preachy, but Jon, Superman, is wearing a mask not for himself.
Exactly.
To protect the other people. So if Superman can do it, why can't everybody else?
Right. came through like 20 people out of the Royal Rumble wearing a mask.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
That you can wear one to Kroger's. So
yeah.
You have Kroger's up in Canada?
No.
What do you have? What grocery stores do you have?
Funnily enough, none that we don't have the same that you got. Like, we get all your TV stations, but the grocery channel chains are all different.
All right, I'll be interested to see. Like someday when I come up there and visit.
Well, yeah, when the world is back to normal, whatever the hell that is, you come up here and we'll go to a Leaf game, and you can really see me turn into the Hulk. Right. Live and in person.
And you can hear just how loud this voice gets when I'm excited. So anyway,
you're gonna hear a lot of words you've never heard of in Italian. I'll tell you that much right now.
So issue number 5, that was the Pride Month issue, and then we see an event that had the whole world talking, and Jon wakes up and he and Jay share the smoochy face. And this
I think the conversation they have though about how, like, he's like, this usually never happens to me, you know, like I'm not supposed to get tired. He's like, and Jay's response was, how do you know? He's like, are there more human Kryptonian hybrids hanging around?
That's a good point. Yeah.
He's like, you're the only one. How do you know?
Right. But going back to this event, yeah, this made headlines for DC, and they sold out of the first printing.
Look, it was so big that it was on the news channel here in Canada.
Yeah, it made news all over the place. And
like there was a show from 8 to 8:30 where they had people on a round table talking about this issue, and I'm like, really? I'm like, this is, I mean, great, Superman's in the news, but I'm like, wow.
Right.
And of course, they talked about the ridiculous reaction, which, look, folks, like, why is this still, I don't understand, Donnie, how this is 2021 and this is still a problem for some people.
Look at it from this perspective too. Jon hasn't been around that long. Jay's a brand new character. This is perfect character development with them. They're not contradicting anything else from the past.
If you're gonna do it with these characters that are both relatively, I mean, up until now, we have never had an inkling of, hey, comic book Jon Kent is interested in this girl.
Sure.
So there's never, like, again, I understand people having an issue with on a surface level with Tim Drake, because he's had a history of having, you know, relationship with girls. Having said that, hey, listen, people come out, you know, at different stages of their life. So
good point.
It's reality. Deal with it. You know.
One of the reactions that I saw on Twitter, somebody was like, and I forget it was one of these talking heads, and was like, yeah, I'll never read another Marvel comic again after this. And I'm like, okay. Tell me you don't read comics without telling me you don't actually read comics.
or for 8 decades, Superman has loved Lois Lane. Yeah, Clark Kent.
Yeah, he still does.
This ain't Clark Kent.
Right. You don't know what you're talking about.
Look, first of all, I think if you're complaining about this, you're an idiot. But that's one thing. But if you want to complain, right? At least read what you're complaining about, you morons.
Know your subject matter. That's always a good idea.
You sound like an idiot when you said Clark Kent loves Lois Lane. Yeah. And that hasn't changed.
No.
They love each other so much that at some point, a few years ago, and then they aged them up in continuity, but a few years ago, they had one of their, you know, unions, the horizontal super mamba in the sky, and here we have Jon Kent. So yeah, they still love each other. What's your point?
I like that. We've got to tell Philip Kennedy Johnson about that.
But he still loves Lois Lane. What's your point? Like, if you're going to complain about something, know what you're complaining about.
Yeah, I would agree.
There are far too many idiots in this world, and I'm telling you, I don't know if it's the 2.5 years of this pandemic, but man, I swear they seem to be coming out like They replicate more than the virus.
Right.
I don't know what replicates more, general stupidity or the virus.
At this point, they're in quite the race.
It's the amount of and apparently I've been reading that, Tom Taylor's been getting death threats over this.
Oh, I'm yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
You don't like it? Very simple. You don't have to go on Twitter and complain about it. Okay?
Yeah.
And this goes for anything. This goes for a TV show reboot. This goes for a movie or a comic character being announced coming out as gay. You don't like it? Nobody's putting a gun to your head forcing you to read it.
Exactly.
Don't read it. Go outside. Touch wood. Breathe some air, put a mask on and breathe some air. Do something else, for God's sake.
Yeah.
Like, nobody's forcing you to do anything.
Right. You know what? The bottom line is, for somebody like me, I don't read any story or watch any form of media just for a relationship.
Yeah.
Okay. They can be the garnish, but they can't be the main dish.
Yeah.
But for a teenager, in particular, a teenager who's LGBTQ, this might be the reason that they become a Superman fan.
Right.
And that's okay.
Yeah. But to me, with any of this, any kind of relationship, whether it be a heterosexual straight relationship, two guys, two girls, whatever, a fish and a hamster, I don't care. Whatever the relationship is, that would be really weird, by the way. Aquaman and Groot, or Aquaman and Rocket, whatever, who cares? The point is,
if it happened anywhere, it would happen in a Green Lantern book. They'd both be Green Lanterns.
North and Chip, or whatever. Who cares?
Oh God! Oh, the imagery!
And for you, Donnie, the big muscly, roided out. Norton too. But anyway, my point is, for any one of these relationships, to me, the important thing is that it's handled and treated realistically and honestly. What I can't stand is when it's like, when they're doing it just for the sake of, well, this will get us publicity. And they wink at the audience saying, look, come over here, look at what we're doing. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Full disclosure, that was my problem with some of the Supergirl stuff on TV, was because Alex, and pick whichever woman she dated, always felt like, hey, look what we're doing over here. Look, 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 right? Whereas on Batwoman, right? The lesbian relationships just feel like natural relationships, normal, everyday, run-of-the-mill relationships. That's what I want it to feel genuine. As long as it feels genuine and that it happens plausibly and realistically, I'm all for whatever you want to throw.
This feels very organic, and kudos to Tom Taylor and DC for being more inclusive, because comics should include everybody. That's what we always say here on Multiverse Musings, the vidcast.
And by the way, for the fools that say, go woke, go broke, the first 5 issues of this story sold out multiple printings, you morons.
Mm-hmm. We're on fire today, man.
I call them the hashtag hooligans. That's my new nickname for all the excessive hashtaggers. Yeah. Hashtag hooligans.
Kids, if you're watching this, if this is your first exposure to comics or Superman or whatever, you know what? Welcome to the family.
Well, yeah, whatever's brought you into the fold, welcome to Superman. Enjoy every minute of it.
Exactly. Even Crypto.
Sure, the dog, yeah. And Streaky the cat, if you're reading that far back. And the horse, whatever the hell Supergirl's horse's name.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Remember, Supergirl was in love with the horse for a while, kind of a horse-like.
See, and listen, if that's the way you want to go for it.
That was weird, but anyway. Yeah. So that kind of brings us to the end here. Anything else you want to talk about?
No, like I said, there were scenes that we didn't talk about that throughout the course of the 5 issues, like Batman just showing up at the door.
Oh, the imagery that I love that image when Batman. I mean, could he have been more intimidating?
But the best was John. Oh wow! And Lois is like, you're the only one that could see through walls, right?
Right.
And then the doorbell is like, you ring the bell? Batman rings the bell? I thought you just show up in our kitchen window. He's like, well, that happened already once, and lessons were learned.
I like that Batman asked for Earl Grey tea, and they had Earl Grey tea. So,
and she's like, of course we have it. Alfred made a habit of sending a monthly subscription to everywhere you would potentially show up. And Batman smiles because Alfred is gone. No thanks to Tom King, and so every little bit of Alfred he gets is good. But so that was entertaining, like that interaction, and the fact that he gave. Or Lois says, typical mom mode. He's not joining the Justice League. And Batman's like, I'm not here for that yet.
We're going to put a pin in that, but we're going to come back around to it.
I'm sure we will. And he gives John a special crystal from the fortress.
Yeah.
And it's a fortress where Clark has, put his artificial intelligence version of himself to kind of act like the Jor-El crystal to give John advice whenever he needs it. I thought that was great.
Mm-hmm.
That was so heartwarming. And it opens with my son, and like very typical Jor-El. And John answers, Dad? And he's like, yeah, buddy, I just wanted you to. So it starts very Jor-El, and then it gets very casual, you know what I mean?
Right.
But I really had a good laugh. I mean, it was very heartwarming, but I had a laugh because John rescues a struggling polar bear.
Yeah.
And it's pregnant, and he brings it to the fortress and is feeding it berries.
And there's a lot I like there.
I was laughing because, John Peters was obsessed when he was the producer of the Superman films with having a polar bear at the Fortress of Solitude. So I think that was like poking fun at that. But John's line was great when he's feeding the berries to the bear, and he's like, look, I brought you berries, but you're going to have to hunt on your own because I'm not going to club a seal for you. I'm
Superman. Right.
So I had a laugh at that. So just little things like those touches that we made, those are awesome. Like, Tom Taylor has a handle on these characters. It's just so, and he's a lifelong Superman fan, and wanted to rate Superman for years. Like Superman in continuity, and it shows. The art is great. It's just, I mean, between Philip Kennedy Johnson on action, Tom Taylor on Superman, Son of Kal-El, and in March, Mark Waid on Batman, Superman, World's Finest. What a time to be a Superman fan.
Right.
We've got Superman on TV in a great show that's kicking all kinds of ass. This is a fantastic time to be a Superman fan.
Oh, I would agree. There's a lot of great stuff going on.
You're too busy being miserable about, a certain director's vision not being restored, or a certain actor may or may not come back, then you can be stuck in 2016. I really got no time for negativity and stupidity. Like, it's a great time to be a Superman fan. And I'm on for the ride. And, I can't wait to see where it goes next.
I would agree. And we'll cover it all right here on Multiverse Musings, the vidcast.
Yes. So let's, I guess we can rate this, these issues, this story. Mm-hmm. So we're going to rate the first 5 issues. Basically, we're going to give 5 for story and 5 for art. So, Donnie, take it away.
Yeah. I'm going to give the story, I'm going to give the writing a 5. I'm going to give the art a 4. There were some ways that some faces were drawn that weren't my favorite. Not that it wasn't good, but it wasn't my favorite. But so again, overall, so that averages, I guess, a 4.5. So very high. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to give the writing and the story a 5. And like you, the art is a 4. I like most of it. There was a changeover. I think it was issue 5.
4. Wasn't it? I thought it was issue 4. Yeah.
4.
Yeah. It was a
That
little jarring.
That art
yeah.
is not my cup of tea. It's more manga than, anime manga than, that I'm used to. It's not bad art. It's just not art that I particularly prefer. So that's why. But issues, 1, 2, 3, and 5 I loved it. But yeah, so 5 for writing and 4 for art.
Yeah.
Of course, we'll cover more of Superman, Son of Kal-El, more Action Comics, and you can sure as hell bet that Donnie and I will be covering Batman, Superman, World's Finest. Like, there's no doubt about that.
You're fired up today, buddy.
And but while we're waiting to do all that, you can talk to us about Superman in comic form, or trying to wrangle in his horny sons on TV, on social media. So Donnie, if they want to find you, where can they?
You can find me on Twitter as the Emerald Enthusiast. Let's talk Superman. Let's talk other comics. Let's talk collectibles. Let's talk Green Lantern.
And you can find me on Twitter at Adam_LeafsFan. The podcast network has its own social media Twitter page, which is at MMNPDC. We have a Facebook group, which is listed in the description below. Click that. I will add you. We can continue the conversation there. In the meantime, remember, Superman, Son of Kal-El is forever. From the first time he rescues a polar bear and feeds it berries to the last. So long, everybody.
So long, everyone.